Moment, regular tour events have shut down. The Masters, as we saw last week, postponed. US PGA Championship in May officially postponed. The US Open and the Open Championship will presumably follow very shortly. We have the Ryder Cup captain Padraig Harrington on the line. Evening, Padraig.
Evening. How are you doing?
Pretty well. How are you doing?
I think I'm doing very well considering. Yeah.
You're in Dublin at the moment.
In Dublin, at home here, and trying to stay out of the way. It's actually obviously not a bad place to be for me. So, yeah, it's kind of bad times, but making the most of it.
Leo Varadkar last night, I'm sure you watched it like most people did, he called this period the calm before the storm, and there is that palpable sense of fear and worry. It's just been an incredibly surreal few days more than anything.
I'm a sportsman. I'm in the entertainment business. I have opinions, but I don't really have them for the public. In terms of, like, I thought Leo was brilliant on TV last night. He looked really in control. He was very, he brought a lot of confidence to the situation, that he knew what was happening. It was, besides that, I'm like everybody else. I'm just doing as I'm told, trying to follow the instructions and just keep pretty low profile.
How have you been spending your time?
Well, I've been spring cleaning, doing a bit of that. I've been obviously still doing a little bit of practice just because I like doing it. I'm not necessarily thinking I'm getting ready for a tournament in the next couple of weeks, but I still enjoy working away at my game. And I've been doing a few social media videos, a few lessons for online, which normally I don't have time for the social media stuff. I'm a bit of a, I don't know, I'm busy enough without trying to do that, and I'm a bit of a perfectionist, so that, if I was putting stuff out, like, it could take me 20 minutes to write a tweet, because I'd be trying to get it right and not make a spelling mistake and get the grammar right. So normally I just not that much into it, but obviously, like everybody else, well, like a lot of people at the moment, we have plenty of time in our hands.
I've seen some of the videos, and you're doing a lot of them. This is a marathon, not a sprint here. You're gone all out. The obsessiveness has kicked in straight away. How many videos are we up to now?
I'm trying to do one a day, and sometimes there's an extra one that I record and put onto the back of it about the same thing. I'm going to do at least one a day.
Okay.
If you know what, I can't get into my Instagram account. I've been trying because of the Ryder Cup for about 6-8 weeks, because we've a load of content that I recorded with the European Tour to go out, and I just can't get into it. So I'm stuck with Twitter, which is 2 minutes 20 seconds of a video. So I'm sticking to that for the moment. But obviously, if I was a little bit more tech savvy, I'd have done all these things. But as I said, generally social media doesn't add that much to what I'm doing. I prefer to put my time into more constructive things for me. But at the moment, obviously, it's a great outlet to get some, I suppose, information out there, blow some steam off for me.
Yeah, sure. I watched the bunker one, and at one stage you said, "Paddy, come around this side." So I presume it's the young fella you're dragging around the Harrington property, forcing him to video you.
Yes, he's doing quite. I think he's doing a great job.
He's doing a great job, yeah.
A little bit of artistic merit, at times he starts following the golf ball and zooming in, which is, I think he could have a future in this. By the end, I tell you what, hopefully he doesn't get that much experience over the next while, but by the end of it, he could be an expert.
Yeah. So to go to an area I just wanted to touch on, we'll talk Ryder Cup in a moment, obviously, and into the broader scheme of things for golf. But you always strike me down the years as a resilient type, as a naturally optimistic person. That seems to be almost your genetic disposition. And yet I know that you definitely feel mentality is a skill set. You can work on yourself, I suppose. You can focus on the positives. Probably an important thing to do at a time like this, because we are bombarded with so much information and so few resolutions on the horizon. So are you calling on some of those practices, for want of a better word, or habits maybe is the better way to term them?
For me personally, yeah, I definitely need to keep working on things like that, and continually try and be optimistic. I think, again, for me, the fact that I can I'm here with my kids. I'm here with my family. I can hit some shots. I can do my practice. I can work out. I'm not in any shape or form in a difficult situation. I haven't been let off from work, even though I have no work. I'm still don't feel like I've been, haven't been made redundant. I'm not in any position to start telling anybody else what to do, but certainly for myself, you've got to stay optimistic and positive. I think, for somebody like myself, my mum is in her 80s. That's obviously something that's the biggest worry for me. My in-laws, the same thing. You just constantly worry that you're going to bring the disease to them, and that's the stress. Anything else for me, I hope I'm healthy enough, or my family's healthy enough, touch wood, that if we did get it, that we would get a milder case of it. So I'm worried that I'll just carry it, and you know yourself, if the worst came to the worst, how bad you would feel about that. So I think that's the stress I carry, but not the same as most people. I think it's a much tougher time for people who've got a job at the moment who it's in danger.
No, 100%, and that goes without saying, and that is very much the context of the conversation for sure. What do you do with the worry?
Talk, 100%. Definitely talk to people. Getting it off your chest is always a good thing when I'm stressed. Try to limit how much of the news you take in, how much of the social media you draw on. Because even if you looked at your Twitter feed for 20 minutes or something and read the news, or you watch the news once a day, that would give you all the news for that day. It's not like you need to look at it all day, because it's the same news each day, during that day. So, I think I've heard that being said, that's a good idea. I think there was I was watching it on TV, a psychologist saying that, just reduce how much time, try and do, whatever you can with your family, and, get away from it, I suppose.
Yes.
Go
on.
I don't really live in that real world, let's say, but I certainly, at home it's reasonably normal when you're in your own house and you're carrying on as normal. I think it really is when you just get out into that bigger picture of what's going on in the world. And look, that's so much in doubt, all the different time scales and what's exactly going to happen. And to be honest, individually we can only control what we're doing. We don't have any control over that bigger picture. We just got to listen to what the government is saying and do it to the best we can, and obviously hope that it works out. Your year, like everyone's year, plans are changing rapidly. Your year revolves around the Ryder Cup. Now, I understand, I think you were talking this morning and made the point that as things stand, there's certainly no moves to cancel the event from this vantage point, certainly. And who knows where we are in 2 months and 3 months. There are a lot of big events which we all thought would go ahead, and now they're falling by the wayside, and it's barely provoking a shrug on our part, because it's just so clearly the right thing to do. The Ryder Cup is in, September 25th? I suspect a date etched in your mind for a long time. At the moment, hoping to proceed, but clearly conversations, I presume, are happening with all the necessary people about how this situation is changing by the day. I think not just hoping to proceed, but preparing to proceed at the moment. There are obviously plenty of discussions, and they're thinking about these things, but there's, September is a long time off, and, if they assume it's going to go ahead, and I'm preparing and doing everything as if it's going to go ahead, and I think that's very reasonable at this stage, that, a decision that far off doesn't need to be made now. I think in the golfing world, the decisions have been made up until about the middle of May. Everything after that is still being considered as being prepared as if it's on. Time will only tell. There's many variables that aren't exactly. They're certainly not certain going forward, and we will. Only time is going to sort this out. I don't see. There's no reason to. These are things that are outside our control. So prepare as if it's going to happen, and assume it's going to happen. And if the virus and the fallout from it continues on through the summer, look, that's more important than anything else. What's happening there? So we're not going to worry about the detail of a sporting event.
No, and unfortunately, it feels like we are bunkering down here for months rather than weeks. So, in terms, and like most of my conversations with people at the moment culminate with both of us agreeing we don't really know the answer to whatever it is we're talking about in the main. But in terms of qualification,
that is an interesting one for me on the Ryder Cup, because obviously a news story broke yesterday that it was going to be cancelled.
Yeah, James Corrigan, I think, in the Telegraph. Yeah,
and I'm on the inside. So for once, there were quotes of an anonymous source on the inside said this. For once, I'm actually on the inside of this story, and I know it's not true. So it was interesting to actually be the inside of it and know actually no, it isn't true. Definitely, there's no cancellation of it at all now.
Yeah.
There is that the anonymous source for once, which we all read the story that says anonymous source, and we because it's so interesting and fascinating, we want to believe it, but not in this case.
Okay, well, I saw James Corrigan standing by the story today, so look, ultimately it doesn't matter if it's whether the announcement comes later on or if it hasn't been discussed yet. Well, none of us actually know exactly what's happening. But I was going to ask you how it affects qualification, for instance. Is there, have you had those conversations?
That is, in our small world of golf, that is a big issue. Qualification for the Ryder Cup, but even more so qualification for your card. So there's players who have to win races to buy points to retain their playing privileges and things like that. So it's quite a stressful time. Like, there's a number of golfers out there who this could really affect their livelihood, that they could be, just like other people, they could be out of work over this, not just in the short term, but because they lose their playing privileges. So yeah, these things have to be considered just as much as the qualifying for the Ryder Cup. So I'm sure, as I said, we have talked and there's meetings going forward. We can come up with a fair way of qualifying for the Ryder Cup. We can come up with a different strategy. Yeah. It's more important that it's a fair crack of the whip is given to everybody for retaining their card, and that's a bigger story amongst the I suppose the professional golfers than necessarily the Ryder Cup qualification.
And again, everything's on the table at the moment. This is just so exceptional, and nobody really has anything in their contracts or in their logistics planning for a global pandemic, I think, in the main. So off the top of my head, you could have anyone who's on tour this year who had their card, they stay on tour next year, and if you want to give a few extra places to people who come up through Q School or whatever the next tier tour is, they can come up as well, and there's a way to get through it all next year.
Oh, look, it will be sorted out. It will be reasonably, I won't say there's a logical way to sort this out that will give everybody a fair chance at it, and they just need to get to a point where they can have the foresight to see there is a point in time when they can know, okay, we can play X amount of events, or we can't play any events at all, and we're going to start at the start of next year again. There could be there's loads of different ways of doing it. There's ways to, as you said, there's ways to look after guys who started well this year if they do have to restart the season, or there's ways to look after guys who have started badly if they don't get to play the rest of the season. There's lots of different things, and once there's a bit of clarity to where we stand with events and what's happening with the events, I think those decisions will be fairly easily made. In the bigger scheme of things, it's very stressful for those players, but it will get sorted.
Again, in the context of this not being very serious at all, but say we do get to a point around September where the world is starting to turn a little bit again, and there's the possibility... No, you're fine.
Sorry about that.
Dear, oh dear. I'm sure you're all right, but we'll keep an eye on it. 25th of September, say we get to a point where the world is beginning to turn again, and the feeling is, well, do you know what? We could maybe have this behind closed doors, and somebody says to you, look, Padraig, that is the official edict from public health officials. They don't want to bring a load of fans over from Europe on planes. They don't want to have a lot of American fans and mixing and mingling. But because golf is not a contact sport like so many others, there is a way of doing this safely. We could do this rather safely, and we could have the tournament behind closed doors, and a global audience would still lap it up, I'm sure. If they turned around to you and said, look, would you have a preference? Would you rather do it now without the fans, or would you rather wait 5-6 months and we can do this Ryder Cup as we know it? What would your feeling be?
I'd be more considered, like, wouldn't we love some sport to be going on now? You know, if it was possible that we could, you know, most people are stuck at home. Wouldn't we love something to be able to watch on the TV, a bit of sport? So if you know, I would go down the road if it was possible to play it from a health and safety point of view. You know, wouldn't it be great to put something on television for people to watch? Something of, you know, to bring a bit of something else into the day. You know, by the time we get to, you know, that's the sort of stage. You know, I'm sure there'll be some sporting events where enough of the athletes are recovered and can go out and compete, maybe behind closed doors. But, you know, I'm not talking golf here. I'm talking other sports. Just to give us something to watch on TV. We all miss the Premiership. We miss talking about. We miss the rugby. You know, whether it's golf or any other sport, it would be not essential, but it would sure beat watching another box set on Netflix or something, wouldn't it?
Yeah. I am already at the end of my Netflix at the moment. I'm struggling to fill the time. So yes, I think it would be very, very strange. I mean, particularly with the Ryder Cup of all golfing events. But I'm probably with you.
Yeah, I think it would be odd and strange, and I think some of the soccer matches that went down behind closed doors, there was a bit of that about it. But like, it'd be more providing a service than necessarily about the sport. You know, that you could see it happening in that sort of situation where you know, as I said, players can be checked, or at this stage, you know, at that stage in September, you wouldn't want to take it away from a limited number of tests that there are now. But by the time of September, assuming there is more ability to test people, maybe some people have recovered, as I said, and there's lots of different things, the scenarios by the time September comes around that could come into play that we just cannot envisage right now, and that's why they haven't cancelled it or are preparing to have it, because there really is so many scenarios that could come into play before that crunch time. A lot of these events, there will be a crunch time with sporting events. You know, if you don't pull the plug 2 months or 3 months before, you incur certain costs in terms of the infrastructure that you put up, and obviously for people, even though with the Ryder Cup, obviously there'll be a lot of accommodation already booked and things like that. There's a lot of different scenarios that go into this, but you know, only time would be the only thing that can tell. I know we're sitting here talking about it, but it really doesn't. We're not going to solve those problems sitting here.
No, we sure aren't. A final, completely irrelevant question then, seeing as you mentioned it earlier on, that you're still hitting a few balls and still practicing to a point. What is your relationship with practice at the moment? Where I presume at some stage it was a searing process to improve and to win and to get better. Has it changed now in the current years? No,
hasn't changed a bit. And it was fascinating there. Somebody, the journalist Brian Keogh tweeted an article that was written, I think at the Times in 1994 about me winning in the South. I actually retweeted it myself, and if you read the article, I might as well. It could have been written yesterday, or not yesterday. It certainly could have been written a year ago about how I'm working on things, how I'm changing things, how I started with a new coach, and how I started with a new psychologist. My tune just never changes. I have that's my personality. I get up in the morning and I think about, well, can I make these things? I go to bed at night thinking about, well, can I make things better tomorrow? And that's the way I am. And you know, I've come to accept that. I'm quite happy with it, and actually quite enjoy it.
Very good. I'd say in times like these, nice to have that distraction for sure. Listen, thanks so much for taking the call. Much appreciated.
No problem. Thanks, Joe.
Cheers. That's Padraig Harrington there live on the line. We'll take a short